But I think it is such an important point, and the way that I've talked about it, which maybe sounds similar to the way Tim Snyder did, is, I think that Ukraine has given Europe, the United States, and liberal democracies a great gift. And I think to understand just what a gift it's been, you have to imagine the counterfactual, which is kind of what you were talking about, Ezra. Imagine that Ukraine fell quickly in the earliest days of the war, as many people thought. If that had happened, I think we would be living in a very different world. We would have a Putin who was emboldened. Like, he would be even more convinced now that might makes right and that borders can be changed through the use of military force. I think he would be entirely convinced, if he hadn't been convinced already, that the West will not stand up to him. He had already learned that lesson. There was Georgia 2008, Ukraine 2014, his attack on the U.S. election in 2016. But now,
his intervention in Syria.
I think he understood that. But here, with the stakes so high, he would have deeply understood that. And so he would have been ever more confident to step up his efforts to undermine liberal democracy, right? We know this is a Putin goal. We know that he fears democracy. We know that he sees democracy as something the United States does just to spread its own influence. We know that he views liberal democracy as a threat to his own regime. If Ukraine had fallen, we would be facing an ever more aggressive Russia. I think if Ukraine had fallen, it also would have been a disaster, or at least a tremendous strain on the Transatlantic Alliance, right? We already see some divisions now, but it would have been far worse. And so Putin, again, would have succeeded in another objective, which is breaking the cohesion in Europe and between the United States and Europe. And just as you said, Ezra, it would have been a very clear signal to other autocrats, especially this point that might makes right and that you can change borders by force. So for all of these reasons, it really is a tremendous gift that Ukrainians have given. And it's up to us to help make something of it. And we've talked about, how the ripple effects it could have in the region. But I think that point is really important. Some countries, the Poles, for example, understand this acutely. It's why they've been so forward-leaning in sending military aid to Ukraine. They understand that their own security is at stake. And so I hope that the rest of Europe and the liberal democracies everywhere can understand how important it is.
This video is produced by Glenn Ryan and Critical Thinking Media and is solely responsible for its content.